me look better. Better to see you with. Anyway. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Janam Balaba Iri Badathavute Gopi Janabala Magiri Badathavute Yasudhanandana Brajajano Ranjana Yasudhanandana Brajajano Ranjana Jamuna Tira Badachari Yamuna Tera Vanachati Jai Hurad Umadava Kunda Vihati Jai Hurad Madhuva Kunya Bihati Gopinana Bhanava Iri Padadhati Gopinana Bhanava Iri Padadhati Yasudhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasudhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachati Yamuna Tera Vanachati Jai Hurad Umadava Kunda Bihati Jai Hurad Madhuva Kunya Bihati Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvatikarya also tell us that she Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantagoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Varanse Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasiti Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shankun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam ki jai, Maturidam ki jai, Jagannath Swami ki jai, Yamunamai ki jai, Shrimati Lassi Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi ki jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 20th chapter, text 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Evam Vanam Tad Varashishtam Pakva Karjura Jambumat Gopalayar Rito Rantum Sa Balaha Ravishad Darehi Evam Vanam Tat Varshishtam Pokva Karjurak Jambumat Gogopalar Vitorantum Sabala Pravishandatahi Evam Vanam Tad Varshishtam Pakvakar Jurak Jambumat Gogopalar Vitorantum Sabala Pravishandatahi Evam Vanam Tad Varshishtam Pakvakar Juna Jambumat Gogopalar Vitorantum Sabala Pravishadarahi. Okay. Pravishadarahi. Evam, thus, Vanam, forest, Tat, that, Varshishtam, most resplendent, Pakva, ripe, Karjuda, dates, Jambu, and jambu fruits. But having go by the cows, Gopalahai, and the coward boys, Ritaha, surrounded, Rantum, with the purpose of playing, Sabalaha, accompanied by Lord Balarama. Pravishat, he entered. Harihi, Lord Krishna. Translation: when the Vrindavan forest had thus become resplendent, filled with ripe dates and jambu fruits, Lord Krishna, surrounded by his cows and coward boyfriends and accompanied by Sri Balaram, entered that forest to enjoy. You can repeat. When the Vrindavan forest had thus become resplendent, filled with ripe dates and jambu fruits, Lord Krishna, surrounded by his cows and coward boyfriends, and accompanied by Sri Balaram, entered that forest to enjoy. So there's no purport by the servants of His Divine Grace the Prabhupada, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami have nice purports. The description of the rainy season having been completed, now a description of Krishna's pastimes in the monsoon forest as described in 7 verses, is described in 7 verses. Krishna entered the forest of Vrinda, which was flourishing, Varshishtam, with ripe date and jambu trees. Jiva Goswami says, the monsoon having been described, now entering the forest for the Lord's special pastimes, the goal of the rains is described. The word evam means, in the same way as I have described the monsoon, I will describe Krishna's pastimes in the forest. The cows and boys surrounded him in order to see the beauty of his face. I'll read Sanatana Goswami's purport really quickly. The monsoon having been described, now entered the forest for the Lord's special pastimes. The goal of the rains is described. They entered the forest splendid with the rains just described, Varshishtam, or resplendent with beauty. Though Vrindavan is the shelter of all seasons, with a wealth of all flowers and fruits at all times, at this time the forest was even more abundant with dates and jambu fruits. Krishna was surrounded by the boys because they wanted to protect him from the rain, each trying to cover him with their umbrella. The cows surrounded him with satisfaction, flowing with milk. Let me just turn this off. Having more affection for him than for their calves, as if offering him their milk. Attracting all minds, Harihi, since he was surrounded by everyone greedy for the beauty of his face, he entered the forest and remained there. Because of the beauty of the forest, Pravishat, there is also the hint that he did this every day during the rainy season. Okay, and then we are going to read Srila Prabhupada's commentary on this verse. And here Prabhupada translates, after the complete rainy season, the forest of Vrindavan was full of fruits like dates and blackberries, different than jambu fruits, ripening on the trees and bushes. Lord Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Sri Baladeva and the other coward boys of the vicinity, entered the beautiful forest, accompanied by the cows to display their transcendental pastimes with his eternal friends. And Prabhupada's purport, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears with his personal entourage once in 4,320,000,000 years. Wow. We waited a long time. At least I waited a long time. Displays his transcendental paraphernalia just to attract the conditioned souls of the material world. And actually, that's only in this universe, because there's so many unlimited universes. Krishna right now is actually enacting his Vrindavan pastimes in some universe. So don't worry, you don't have to wait that long. You can go there right after this lifetime. Although the material world is only a shadow of the spiritual world, the materially encaged living entities seek spiritual happiness here in a form perverted by materialistic attachment. Empiric philosophers with a poor fund of knowledge imagine a spiritual picture that is impersonal. But the spiritual living being, less attracted by the impersonal form of spiritual emancipation, becomes more attracted by the material form and becomes hopeless of spiritual emancipation. In other words, put it in plain language, when the impersonalists present their impersonal understanding, doesn't attract us, because we are personal beings and we want relationships, we want variety, and so it's really obnoxious. I mean, just like sometimes I see someone meditating in the temple Raman Brahman, and I just think, yuck. Anyway, it's not attractive. Therefore, it's like going to sleep. Therefore, it's not attractive to go to sleep unless you're tired. Therefore, the absolute personality of Godhead, out of his limitless and causeless mercy, descends from the spiritual kingdom and displays his personal pastimes of Vrindavan, the replica of the Krishna local planet in the spiritual sky. Vrindavan is the most sacred place within this cosmic universe, and people seeking to achieve spiritual emancipation by entering the kingdom of God may make a home in Vrindavan and become serious students of the six Goswamis who were instructed by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The six Goswamis were headed by Srila Rupa Goswami, who was followed by Srila Sanatan, Srila Bhattu Raghunath, Srila Jiva, and Srila Gopal Bhatta, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. They were all seriously engaged in research and excavation of the mystery of Vrindavan Dham. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared at Vrindavan about 5,000 years ago, and the relics of his appearance at Vrindavan were lost from view. But Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the very same Lord Krishna in the form of a great devotee, appeared at Navadvip, a district in West Bengal, and excavated the holy places of Lord Sri Krishna's transcendental pastimes. He instructed the above-mentioned six Goswamis to compose authorized literature on the cult of Vrindavan, and any serious student anxious to know about the Supreme Lord may take advantage of this invaluable literature and the guidance of authorized scholars, and thus know about the Lord of Vrindavan, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So there's the Prabhupada's comments. So evam vanam tadvar shishtam pakva karajurajam mumat go gopalar vato rantum sabala pravishad dadahi. So there's several ways of understanding this particular jump right now to Krishna's pastimes. Right, we have Krishna and Balaram appearing all of a sudden as really nectar. So one understanding that we get from this is that previous to this, and especially in the last verse we heard some description, as Mother Irma gave class, of varnashram and people in different varnas doing different things. And, that was nice. Nothing wrong with it, because it's also Krishna Katha. However, we find in the description of the conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy, which is called the Ramananda Samvada, there is a very interesting progression from varnashram up to pure devotional service, up to the highest stages of the relationships between Radha and Krishna. And the interesting thing in this particular discussion, sorry about this, is that Ramananda Roy, who is ostensibly, externally, according to varnashram, a what? Does anyone know? A Shudra, Kayashta, which is considered a Shudra. And he's also the governor of Madras, which is nowadays called Chennai, and actually that whole area there. So, anyway, so Ramananda Roy is giving instructions to Lord Chaitanya, who is a Brahmin. Oh my God, what's happened here? We're jumping over the varnas, Ooh, we got trouble. So anyway, because Lord Chaitanya is asking questions in a rhetorical way. Rhetorical, of course, means the teacher knows, but the teacher asks the question, what does this mean? And so, anyway, so Lord Chaitanya is asking the question of Ramananda Roy, who is a Shudra, ostensibly, externally. He said, what is the highest goal and what is the method to achieve it? And Ramananda Roy first says, varnashram. And there's nothing wrong with Varnashram. Sorry about that. Varnashram is kind of nice. It's to regulate society, to keep everybody in their proper place. Oh my God, that sounds threatening. Know your place. Anyway, so to keep everybody in the proper place. So society is regulated. I mean, Krishna is the originator of Varnashram. You know, Krishna talks about it. It's not the caste system, just to make it very clear. Oh my God, very little time for this. So, and then Lord Chaitanya said, this is simply external. Not only is he saying it's external, but he's showing it's external by having Ramananda Roy preach to him, which is interesting. And then he says to Ramananda Roy, just go a little higher. And then Ramananda Roy quotes his verse from the Gita, Yat karochi yadashnasi yajahushitadasi yatadvashashi konti yatat karashva mararpanam. So he says, all right, higher than that is offer whatever you do, and that whatever you offer, whatever you give away should be offered to Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya said, this is also a little external. And you think, what is that external? Because a lot of people who are offering things to Krishna, especially in India, are offering things to Krishna because they want something. And they do bargains with the deities. They go before Balaji and say, Balaji, if this business is successful, you get 50% and I get 50%. It's nice. Sometimes I do that with Radha Golokananda. If I get a big donation, I'm just joking. I never do that. So then Lord Chaitanya said, this is external. And then Ramananda Roy talks about, at this point, Sarvadharmam Parichaja, Mamikam Sharanam Braja. Just, give up everything. And Lord Chaitanya said, that's also external. And then he talks about Jnana Mishra Bhakti. I'm leaving a few points out here. Jnana Mishra Bhakti means the desire for liberation. One performs bhakti. And then Lord Chaitanya says, you got to go higher than this. And then he talks about pure devotional service, which is described by Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion as Anyabi Lashita Shunyam Jnana Karmanavritam Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktirutamam. Then one has to be devoid of any desire for liberation or just even achieving knowledge in this world or gross things in this world. And then one has to serve Krishna favorably according to what Krishna wants and with great devotion, not just out of a sense of duty. And I like that point that Mother Irma made yesterday about that, the sense of duty. We hear the word duty in the Western world and it's just like, yuck! Do your duty. Yeah, but it means a lot more, dharma, whatever it is. That it's actually part of your identity. It's a lot more. So anyway, whoops, why don't we need this anymore? So Lord Chaitanya said, yeah, you got it there. I'm paraphrasing, putting it in modern language. He didn't say, you got it, boy. He said, that's it. But you got to go higher. And then he talks about, servitude and then friendship, parental relationship, and finally conjugal relationship. And then he goes into the higher stages of conjugal relationship. I'm not going to get into that right now. Of course, I may later on in class. So this is actually a progressive path. So we actually find this in this chapter in the Bhagavatam, that you're getting the preliminary foundational knowledge, and you're getting actually Abhideya, Sambandha and Abhideya here. And then finally we're getting to Prayojana. It's interesting. I mean, it's leading up to Prayojana. Prayojana means the goal, Krishna and Balaram. So you may think, well, it's only, this is an interesting perspective. You may think this is only preliminary stuff that we've read so far, and, finally we get to the real nectar. But that's not actually a fact. First of all, Krishna's philosophy, whether it's Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana, like Bhagavad Gita, there's a lot of Sambandha stuff there, is nectar, because it's Krishna. And not only is it nectar to hear the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, the basic stuff, that's a test to see if you're actually advanced in devotional service. Some people who think they're advanced in devotional service, they really want to go just for the, what they consider to be the nectar. You go to the Babajis and Radha Kund, they'll say, it's Bhagavad Gita. What the are you reading Bhagavad Gita for? But if you actually love Krishna, then you will actually love everything he says. You say, Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, I don't like what you talk about there. I'm beyond you. I'm beyond that. But it's nonsense, because it's nectar. It's nectar coming from the mouth, like Guru Mukha Padma Bhakti, the lotus mouth of the spiritual master. So Krishna has a lotus mouth too. So that's one way to understand this particular section of the Bhagavatam. It's actually all wonderful philosophy, and it's all spoken by Krishna and the pure devotees, and it's Krishna's philosophy, Dharmam tu Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. It comes from Krishna. And there's another way that I was thinking of too, that it's these are all descriptions of Vrindavan in here, and whether it's Krishna's philosophy or Vrindavan, directly Vrindavan, whether you take it in a metaphorical sense or in an actual sense or whatever, it's all like nectar, because all these descriptions are what we call vibhavas. Vibhava means, and I'm just going to refer to Nectar Devotion. I'm not going to really read from Nectar Devotion, but I just want to make you aware of this particular chapter, which is chapter 26 in Nectar Devotion. And chapter 26 in Nectar Devotion is called Stimulation for Ecstatic Love. Prabhupada has actually put the Sanskrit words in a form, or translated them in common English so we can understand what's going on here. But actually, this chapter is about vibhava, or vibhavas. I'm not going to read from it. So, when we're talking about vibhavas, things that stimulate your ecstatic love or ecstasy, and actually we should have been stimulated by this whole chapter. Not just by the philosophy is very stimulating, but by just the description in Vrindavan. It's Vrindavan. It's not an ordinary place. It's not that we're talking about, for example, many years ago I was the GBC of Hawaii, and there's one island in Hawaii chain, where it rains more than any other island. I think it's Kauai or something like that. So anyway, and so that's where they have the Hindu temple there, which I visited. Actually, it's a Shiva temple. And so it rains there. So you hear about the rain there. One day I was reading about the rain, not recently, years ago when I was a rascal. I was reading about the rain in Kauai, how it rains more and everything, and I didn't feel so stimulated hearing about it. But hearing about the rain in Vrindavan is stimulating because it's connected with Krishna. And here we're talking about vibhava, or vibhavas, to use a plural in English, combine the English with the Sanskrit. So the things that stimulate devotees are of two types, alambana and udipana. There's some new words for all of you. That means, alambana means directly Krishna. It would be really stimulating for me if Krishna walked in the room here. That's a no-brainer, right? Krishna walks in with his flute. Of course, the flute is udipana, but anyway. And I feel ecstasy. But if you're actually a devotee, then you'll be stimulated by things related to Krishna. Like if you see a flute, if you see like the peacock fan over there, right? If I was actually a devotee, if I would look at that peacock fan, I would feel ecstasy if I was actually a devotee. Or anything. The bell. Krishna's eating right now, right? As far as I know. That's what the bell means. The bell doesn't mean that soon it will come off the altar and I will be able to eat, like most people think. Like sometimes, a little kid will go to his parents. The parents are doing deity worship and they'll say, "Is it prasadam yet?" Because the bell is like the Pavlovian response. When you hear a bell, then you start to salivate. Anyway, so we should be stimulated by these things. And actually, talking about Krishna, it's very interesting about being stimulated by Krishna directly. There's Krishna in two forms that can stimulate you. One is in his obvious form, and I'm just using the English right now, and one is when he has a covered form. Like when Krishna dresses up as a lady, drag. Krishna's the original drag king. Anyway, so when Krishna dresses up as a lady, that's also a lambana, isn't it? That's called avrita. Avrita means covered. Like we have that word in Sanskrit in the Bhagavad Gita, avritam gyanametena gyanino nityavairana. One's consciousness or knowledge is covered, right? So Krishna is sometimes covered, and the devotees don't understand, why is this woman stimulating me? I'm supposed to be above sex life. And that's Krishna. Ormila doesn't like my examples. Anyway, why does this, or the older cows are thinking, why is this older calf stimulating me so much? It's Krishna. It's a covered form of Krishna. And then, so Krishna's a covered form, and then Prakrita, then uncovered form. So anyway, so this is a lambana and a deepana. So anyway, so all these things should just stimulate our ecstasy when we're hearing about Vrindavan, not an ordinary place. And then another point I wanted to bring forth about this particular verse is all these different arrangements in Vrindavan, whether you're talking about the rain or the clouds. Sorry, I should be more positive. The rains or the clouds or the seasonal flowers and everything, they're all made by someone named Brinda, who Vrindavan is named after. It's interesting. I was just reading what the Govinda Lilamrita, and Brinda Devi and Tulsi Devi are two different persons in the Govinda Lilamrita. There's actually discussion between both of them, conversation. Anyway, so what I wanted to do is be a little esoteric today, if I could, because I promised that I would do this, and read about some of the things that Brinda does to arrange for Radha and Krishna's pastimes, or Krishna and Balaram's pastimes, or any pastime that Krishna has, or Krishna with the cowherd boys. And this is from the Govinda Lilamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Now, none of you should pick up a copy of the Govinda Lilamrita. Sorry. What? Oh my God. I'm shivering. My hairs are standing on. And anyway, give me a second to compose myself. So anyway, so this is Govinda Lilamrita. It's a very advanced literature, and I'm just reading parts that are not too advanced for all of us. Just a few parts. So this part is referring to the Ashtakaliya Leela. Ashtakaliya Leela means the 8 aspects, the times of the day when Krishna enacts his pastimes. Lord Chaitanya also has Ashtakaliya Leela. So anyway, so this particular section we're going to read from, at least the first section, refers to the end of night, which is the first time in the time sequence of Krishna's pastimes. So this is Vrinda, who makes all these arrangements, everything, the seasons, the clouds, the rain, the birds, the trees. She's the boss. So, seeing the end of night, Vrinda engaged a group of birds ready to follow her order to wake up Radha and Krishna. On her order, the birds, arriving at the bower on the instructions of Vrinda, in silence filled the grove with their chirping and great bliss. The sari birds sang in the grapevines. The parrots sang in the pomegranate trees. So she's arranging all this stuff for Radha and Krishna. The cuckoos sang in the mango trees with their consorts. The doves sang in the pilu trees, and the peacocks sang in the priyaka trees. The bees sang in the creepers. The cocks crowed on the ground. These are peacocks, not chickens. At that time, the bees, greedy for honey, began humming within the bower, which was decorated with flowering creepers and a bed made of lotus petals. They sounded like an auspicious conch announcing Cupid. The bees, bursting with bliss and mad to taste honey, began buzzing louder, like the sound of drums suggesting the joy of love in order to wake up Govinda. So all this is arranged to wake up Radha and Krishna. Remember this, by Vrinda. Seeing that Krishna had arrived, this is a separate section. Seeing that Krishna had arrived, Vrinda informed the suffering plants and animals of the forest who had been depressed in separation from him. So in other words, in Vrindavan, you hear these descriptions of everything in Vrindavan. Everything's conscious. The clouds are conscious. I mean, this is from another perspective. The clouds are conscious. The trees are fully conscious. Not like now if you see, not in Vrindavan, but here, if you see a tree here, it's not fully conscious. It's covered. But there you can talk to a tree. You can talk to a laddu that you're going to eat. And you don't destroy it either. So anyway, so here you have Vrinda telling the plants and animals of the forest who had been depressed because of Krishna's separation. Krishna's coming, and they became enlivened. And this is what she says. O forest friend, Krishna is coming here. Rejoice immediately. Give up the fainting state of separation. Make him remember Radha, your queen, by showing him your individual qualities, referring to the creepers and flowers. Make your wealth successful by producing pastimes for the couple. O creepers, wake up. O trees, blossom. O deer, begin prancing. This is pretty amazing, isn't it? The descriptions that she gives to all the animals, the plants, all the aspects of the forest of Vrindavan. O cuckoo, sing with the bees. O peacocks, dance in joy. She's like the director, the stage director here. Peacocks, okay, dance. Parrots, begin recitation. O plants and animals, rejoice. After a long time, your dearest friend has come to make you happy. Sprinkled with the nectar, shower of nectar from the sound of his flute, fanned by the air of his limbs, completely revived by Vrinda, the forest suddenly opened its eyes. The forest, awakened by Vrinda and decorated with Krishna's entrance, shone as if beautiful Lakshmi had come to see him. Beyond this, there were flower gardens surrounded by groves. There was a jeweled pavilion in the water connected by a bridge to the land. This is all arranged by Vrinda. It was surrounded by forest goddesses who plucked various flowers, and hundreds of servant girls engaged in the service of the bowers. It was surrounded by groups of rooms for storing the service supplies gathered by Vrinda and situated in the middle of flower gardens and flower groves. The groves around the pond were served by the qualities of the seasons, and the paths, plazas, and dwellings were cleansed and sprinkled with scented water by Vrinda. There were roadways, there were roadways, yards, swings, and pavilions made colorful by arches, canopies, manners, and pillars made of flowers. In the bowers meant for pastime, situated on soft earth, there were beds made from various flowers, lotus petals, buds without stalks, pillows, cushions, shaped like the moon, goblets of honey, boxes of betel, and water pitchers. The surrounding water was scented with pollen and honey from white water lilies, red lotuses, white lotuses, blue lotuses, day lotuses, and night lotuses. I mean, if this doesn't stimulate your love for Krishna, you're in the wrong movement. The pond was filled with soft singing of swans, cranes, galalules, whatever that is, cormorants, cuckoos, and various geese, pleasant to hear. It was attractive with poetic conversations, joyful with the rasas of Krishna's pastimes, recited by parrots and sari birds, singing together and separately. The attractive banks were spread with dancing, crying peacocks excited by affection for Krishna's effulgence, which they mistook for clouds. In the attractive groves there were pigeons, turtle doves, and chatakas, filled with joy on seeing Krishna, who expanded their bodies and produced pleasing notes for their ears. All the chikora birds, rejecting the moon, covered the whole sky as they attempted to drink the nectar of Krishna's moon-rayed face, which defeated countless full moons. The banks were covered with bowing trees and creepers bearing ripe, half-ripe, unripe fruits, as well as buds, flowers, and new leaves. This pool of water and its banks, amidst many forests of lotuses of many colors and breeds, seemed to mock the astonishing milk ocean by its qualities. So this is some of the work of Brinda, which we're actually hearing about today. And finally, I'd like to end by reading some of the verses glorifying Brinda, if I have time. This is called the Vrinda Devi Ashtaka by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the great Acharya. And I'll just read the English because we don't have time for the Sanskrit. And she is the one who arranges everything in Krishna's pastime. So we're actually hearing this whole chapter is basically, to a large extent, about what Brinda is doing to arrange, because all this is to arrange for Radha and Krishna to appear. Just like all these different philosophical points made here in the previous verses is to arrange for us to understand the philosophy so we can rise to the level of understanding Krishna's pastime. So it's important to have Sambandha and Abhideya Gyan to come to the point of Prayojana. O Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. You are bathed in your own splendor, which defeats the effulgence of lightning and the golden champaka flower. The luster of your transcendental garments is the friend of the liandila flower. O Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. Your face is illuminated by the splendor of the pearl decorating the tip of your nose, and by the extraordinary gentle smile on the two bimba fruits which are your lips. You are enriched by the beauty of the amazing and colorful jewels and ornaments you wear. O Brinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. Srimati Radharani, the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, has made you the ruling monarch of Lord Krishna's opulent and auspicious abode of Vrindavan, which is the crest jewel of all the Vaikuntha planets. O Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances at your lotus feet. Because of your order, the groves where Lord Madhava performs his pastimes appear very splendid, decorated with blossoming flowers, bumblebees, deer, and other auspicious animals, flowers, and birds. O Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. Who can describe your good fortune? You are the messenger who brought about the perfection of the amorous pastimes of Radha and Krishna, the youthful couple who enthusiastically sport in the groves of Vrindavan. I'll finish. Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. The living entities who attain the service of the lotus feet of your Lord reside in Vrindavan, and the desire to understand the Lord's amazing pastimes of the rasa dance is only by your mercy. Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. Those who have studied the Shaswata Tantra glorify you. You are Lord Krishna's potency for performing pastimes, and you are known as Tulsi Devi in the human society. So I guess Tulsi Devi is like an expansion of Vrinda Devi, even though they appear as two separate personalities in Krishna's pastimes, which is interesting. O Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. Those who are devoid of devotion to Lord Hari and who are thrown by their offenses into the waves of lust and other inauspicious qualities may take shelter of you. Wow. Oh my God. Let me just finish. O Vrinda Devi, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. Let a person who becomes like a bumblebee at the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna and who hears or reads these 8 verses describing the glories of Vrinda Devi eternally reside at Goloka Vrindavan. He attains devotional service and pure love of Godhead, and all of his spiritual aspirations are fulfilled. Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right. Enough of that. Jai Shri Shri Radha Golokananda. Radha Golokananda ki jai. Govindam Adi Purusham
Govindam Adi Purusham